started. Now, the first top thing seniors or beginners need to know when it comes to the iPad is, of course, how to turn the iPad on and off. Now, if you're an iPhone user already, this will be really easy. It'll probably sound a little bit like deja vu, but essentially we want to look for the power button, which is at the top right corner of our iPad. So first, which way is the right way up? If we can see, there's a tiny little hole at the top here that is showing us the camera. So that is actually the top of the iPad when you've got that little circle at the top. So then if I'm turning this, I'll be able to see top right corner, there is my power button. So essentially I click this button, it wakes up my iPad. If I hold the button though, it allows me to turn the iPad off completely by sliding this message all the way across. So this is for iPads that have the home button. So in the case of an iPad without the home button, we still have our power button at the top right, but to turn it off, we actually have to press both the power button and one of our volume buttons. So I simply hold this button and you'll see now it shows that message, slide to power off. But if I actually just hold this button, it won't actually do that. It'll wake up Siri if you've got Siri turned on. So that's just something to be aware about. As for turning it back on, we simply hold that same button. It will take it some time, but eventually you'll see the screen appears with the Apple logo. So now it's powering back on. So just to understand the difference between if we just click the button versus if we hold the button, when we power off the device totally, what we're actually doing is we're giving the iPad a deep sleep or allowing it to have a deep sleep. So it does help it run a little bit smoother. So it is actually a good thing to do once in a while. But if you've got a code to get in, it prompts you to pop that in. So I'm going to pop that in now. And we are now in the main screen. So that is our power button. So next thing is, how do we actually get into our apps? So very similar to the iPhone, we want to open an application. We simply touch the app with our finger, say emails, and it opens up like so. So if we want to get out of the application, when I've got a home button, I press this button and it takes me back to the main screen. Now, if I have an iPad without the home button, but this actually works for iPads with home buttons as well. So let's say I open that same application. Now to get out of the app, imagine there was no button. I simply slide my finger from the bottom and flick it up. And as you can see, it brings me back to the main screen. So if you watched our session around the iPhone, you would have learned about how pressing the home button or getting out of the app like that doesn't actually close the app completely. We need to do an extra step. So in the case of if you've got a home button, we need to press this twice really quickly like this, click, click, and it shows you all the apps that are still open in the background. And then we simply put our finger in the middle of one of them and we slide it up. And that is now gone, like so. So if you don't have a home button, what do? I actually simply slide my finger from the bottom into the middle. For a few seconds, I leave my finger in the middle and I let go, and it actually shows me all the apps that are open. I put my finger in the middle of one and that's now closed. Next important tip is browsing the internet. So typically people would buy an iPad to replace their computer or for a mini version of the computer. So let's learn how we do that. So what we do on the iPad is we find this application called Safari. It looks like a little compass and we simply touch it. And that is the application for browsing the internet. Now on the top of this particular program, we'll see it says search or enter web address. So I touch right into that little box, and now my keyboard will appear and it allows me to type what I would like to search for. So let's say, for example, the cheapest place to get vitamin C, which we'll need with winter coming really soon. So I can type here vitamin C, and you'll see it appears at the top like so. So you can choose one of the suggestions, but otherwise you can simply press the blue go button, and that will by default use Google and show you information about vitamin C. Now I will do a separate session just on browsing the internet in more depth, different tips like how do I save maybe certain websites as my favorite, that sort of thing. But just for now, just to get us started, that is how we browse the internet. We go into Safari, we press in that top bar, type what we want to find, and then we can actually start browsing through. So let's say I actually want to buy vitamin C, so I might want to go to the shopping section, and then it shows me places that sell vitamin C, how much they cost, etc. So that's a little bit about browsing. Now, how about if I go into Safari, but it's already got a page open and I actually don't want this page? How do I get rid of this page and start a new fresh search? So this is what I can do. At the very top right corner, I'll see squares. So sometimes if your software is a previous version, the squares might be overlapping, but all I need to do is I press the squares and it actually shows me what pages are open, and I'll see a little cross at the top right corner or one of the corners. So I press that little cross. So that's now clear. It's closed that page completely, and as you can see, it's got a blank box now for me to type either the website name or my new search. So that is how I search the internet with Safari on the iPad. Now I want to get out of this, so I press my home button, or I can flick it up and it takes me back to the main screen. Now the fourth tip when it comes to getting started with the iPad is understanding about our volume buttons. So that is on the top right, you'll see two buttons. So if I press the top one, you'll see there's my volume going up. Press the bottom one, you'll see my volume decreases. So this will be useful if you're watching a movie or YouTube or catching up on a program, etc., etc. We've got the volume buttons, but also if you're doing a FaceTime call, so that's something that I can cover in another session. If you're interested, just let me know in comments. Now, the last one is a big one, which is emails. How do we set up our emails and get them coming through the iPad? So when it comes to emails, they can be a little bit more complicated. So I would recommend, for example, especially if you have an email with a local provider like Big Pond or iiNet, I'd recommend go to them and get them to set it up for you, because they require the correct settings to work. If you have the wrong settings, you might not be able to receive emails, or you might not be able to send emails. But if your email is with one of the more generic providers like Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, they are a bit easier to set up. You only need to know your email and your password. So firstly, we are going to briefly talk about how to set it up, but I will be honest, it is a bit more complicated. So I personally think that if you can get help from a technician, especially if the email provider is local, I would say do that, but I will actually show you where we go. So the place we set up anything is the settings on our iPad. So you'll see this little icon here. So I'm going to press that there. So it might not be down here. It might be on the main screen itself. It all depends. So mine's actually on the second page. So I'm going to touch that now. So once I'm in this program, I want to go to the sidebar here, and I want to keep scrolling until I see mail, as you can see here. So I press that now. So then I want to go into the account section. You'll see at the top here. And here I can add an account. So you'll see I actually already have an account, but you can actually set up multiple emails. So some of you might still be doing work, so you might have a work email as well as a personal one. So I'm going to go plus or add account. So as you can see, we have some options. So if my email is gmail.com, I simply go Google, and what it does is it will prompt me to put in the information directly into Google. So I go, yes, let's continue. And now it brings me to a page that might look familiar when you're trying to check your emails on a normal computer. I need to type the email address. So I type that in. So then I press next. And then it asks me for my password, and then I press next, and then pretty much that will allow me to have my emails up and running, depending on if you have the right password, of course. So I won't do that now as I already have email set up. So as you can see, if it's Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, Outlook.com, MSN, they are easier to set up. You just choose one of these, put your email, put your password, and you're ready to go. But if your email is a bit more complex, such as Big Pond, etc., you would choose other, and now you'll see it can get more complicated. We need not only name, email, password, but in the next screen, it'll actually ask us for all sorts of other information, like the outgoing server settings and the incoming server settings, the port numbers. So if I'm speaking a different language, that's okay. This is actually why I definitely do recommend just take it to your provider, get them to help you so that you can actually get it up and running on your device. So I'll cancel that for now. So that is how we set up email. So just to recap, we went to settings, we looked for the mail section, and then within mail, we went to accounts and we added an account, thereafter choosing one of the providers that we have our email with. So as for how do I actually do some basics of sending emails and where do we see the emails we've received? So if I go back to the main screen, which by pressing the home button or swiping up, you'll see the mail icon. So again, it might be on the main screen or it might be at the bottom. So mine's at the bottom here. So I simply touch that icon. It tells me already I actually have 5 unread emails. That's what that 5 number means in red. So I touch it open. So this is just telling me some new privacy protection features that have been added. Anytime you see a pop-up like this, have a read of it. So what is it saying? Mail privacy protection. It works at hiding your IP address, etc., etc. So for now, I will say yes, protect, and then I'm going to go continue. So when it comes to my emails, I've got my inbox, and if I touch one of these emails, you'll see it opens the email itself. But here's a little tip. If I actually turn my iPad sideways, I can actually see both alongside each other. So that's pretty handy. So I can open up an email and now it shows that here. I can scroll with my finger like so. I can scroll here like so. So that is another way to do it, is by using your iPad landscape to be able to see both alongside each other. So next thing when it comes to emails is, besides just looking at the email, is let's say I want to reply to an email. So let's say I'd like to reply to this particular email. You'll see a few icons on your screen. So this is the one we're looking for, a arrow that points back to indicate that we want to reply. So if I press that little icon, it actually gives me quite a few options. So I can reply to just this individual person, or if there was multiple people, so let's say it was an email group, I can reply to everyone, and I can even forward the email to someone else. But let's keep it simple. If I just want to hit reply, so then I simply type in what I'd like to say, and it'll appear here, like so. And then I can press the little arrow to send that off. So that is the button to say send off that reply. And you'll hear a little sound as well. So that is how we look at our emails, how we can easily reply. But let's say I'd like to email someone that's not in my inbox, so a completely new email. How do I do that? Now, if you were watching my lesson on an iPhone, you might recognize this little icon, the page and pencil. Anytime you see this, think of it as a new page to write a new message, a new letter, etc. So that is how I do a new email. I touch the icon and now it pops open, and there's different sections, as you can see. So if I want to put in the to field, the email I'd like to send to. So let's say I want to send an email to john@apple.com, like so. Now subject, I need to first touch in that area. You'll see the little cursor appears. So now I type my subject, hello. But for the body of the email, I need to move the page up, and just above this signature, I touch or tap, and this is where I type my actual message. And then you can use the shift key, just like a computer, to get things. And of course, make corrections with our little backspace, like so. So then once we're done, just like before, we see the little arrow to send off that email. But I won't do that because I think there is actually a John at Apple, and he'll be wondering, well, what on earth is this email? So that is email. Now, one thing I do want to share is, let's say you've started an email, but you need a bit more time to finish it. So you'll notice when I try press cancel, if I do that again, cancel, it asks me, would I like to save this email as a draft, or I can delete it. So if I go save as draft, where does it go? On my page within the email application, there's actually a button that allows me to go to mailboxes. So if I press that now, this is where I can see my inbox, if I've sent any emails, my sent folder, etc. So as you can see, there's a draft, and there's that email that I started earlier. So I simply touch it, and it opens back up, and I can continue that email. So that's another little tip when it comes to emails. But otherwise, last thing when it comes to emails, if I go back to my mailboxes and back to the inbox, is how do we get rid of them? How do we get rid of emails that are not important? So you will see one of two kinds of icons that allows to delete. You might see a rubbish bin. So that's pretty straightforward. That's how I delete an email. I just have the email open that I want to get rid of, and I press that rubbish bin. But sometimes you see a box. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So this is another email program that's with Gmail. So instead of a rubbish bin, I see this little box. So the box also means delete. So I just simply press it, and that will actually delete the email. That does bring us to the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed that. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button as well as the subscribe button that you should see just below. That helps our channel grow and helps other people find us. Plus, you get to find out when we release new free lessons. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can check out our website, which you should see on the screen as well as in the description below. And finally, this is your channel, not mine, not ours. So whatever you'd like to learn next, please do let us know in the comments below. But thank you for listening.